welcome to your weekend warm-up ahead of the Hungarian Grand Prix, and it's going to be another hot weekend, maybe a little bit of rain, but Lawrence Barretto, great to have you back in the F1 paddock.
Thanks, it's so good to be back. I mean, I've only missed one race, it feels like I've been away forever.
I know it does, but can't wait to spend the weekend with you as we head towards the summer break. One last push before the holidays, and we're outside Aston Martin. We will come on to that a little bit later on, but I just want to reflect on last weekend's action. Only a few days ago that we're in Le Castellet. Were you watching from your sofa at home?
Yeah, so I've watched it back, I watched qualifying and the race back, but I feel like it's only right, Rosanna, as you were on site, that you take the mantle of doing the 60-second review this week.
Oh, this is my first one.
This is exciting. You didn't tell me that beforehand.
No.
That would explain all the prep that you've done. Sorry,
well, I wanted to get it right. Okay, you've got to stop watching. You're ready, born ready.
I'm taking this seriously.
Okay,
Don't do a Will Buxton, just keep talking, okay?
Gosh, I'll try my hardest to be Will Buxton. I don't. Okay.
All right, are you ready?
Yes.
Go.
Charles Leclerc on pole position. Good start for him. Good start for Lewis Hamilton actually as well, and Fernando Alonso. A bit of action on the first lap. Esteban Ocon and Yuki Tsunoda. Ocon picked up a penalty. Yuki Tsunoda eventually retired. Charles and Max, P1 and P2, started to kind of edge away from the field. Max just couldn't make the jump on Charles, so Red Bull triggered the undercut. Max pitted, that was lap 16. Good stop for him, 2.4, and a couple of laps later, Charles Leclerc in the lead of the race, crashes out. We heard that piercing scream, didn't we? Into the barriers, safety car came out. Some people pitted. One of those people was Carlos Sainz, who'd started from the back of the field with an engine penalty. Unsafe release for him and Ferrari, though, so he knew he had a penalty to serve. But he carried on picking off people on the grid. He managed to get past George Russell, Sergio Perez, and then there was that confusion on the radio. Ferrari trying to get him to come in, made the pass, then they brought him back in. He managed to go from 9th up to 5th. Meanwhile, we had a VSC after Joe had to stop on track. George Russell got the jump on Perez to take the 3rd place, 2nd for Lewis, and 1st for Max Verstappen.
Yes, I'm going to give you that.
Is that okay? Was that close enough?
Yeah, but it was smashing.
I feel like I have the top 10 in there in me, but I won't do it. We'll save that for another time, maybe after the summer break, just to whet your appetite for more of Rosanna's recap. Oh, there's a thing, Rosanna's recaps. We won't make it a thing. Right. As I mentioned, we're outside Aston Martin. The big news this morning was, we joked about it, wasn't it, earlier on when we were sort of reacting to the news. Sebastian Vettel joins Instagram, and then half an hour later or an hour later or something like that, Sebastian Vettel announces in a very moving black and white video that he will be retiring from the sport. Did you see it coming, Lawrence?
I think we knew that he was considering what he was going to do in his future, beyond this season. But I don't think anyone saw it coming here, like the news here.
He joked in France that there was an extension pending, and I think Mike Crack, the team principal, had alluded to them trying to keep Sebastian in their fold. So it was a little bit of a bolt out of the blue. You spoke to him in the media pen, didn't you? Yeah,
they were super keen to keep him. Make no mistake, Lawrence Stroll and Mike Crack, they wanted Sebastian to stay, but he only decided last night. That's how I found out when I was chatting to him in the pen. Decided last night he wanted to go, told the team, announcement out this morning. I mean, it's a pretty phenomenal way to announce that you're leaving a sport after 15 years. We've seen it before when he left Ferrari to join what was then Racing Point and is now Aston Martin. So he likes those kind of surprise announcements. But it's a sad day, I think, for Formula One, because he's been a great driver, a great spokesperson. He's been a great racer. He's obviously won those 4 World Championships. Not many drivers have won that many world titles. And I thought the way that he delivered the news...
Red Bull coming through.
Thank you.
Honking their horn.
I think it's just really nice that he got to do it on his own terms, and now he gets to go and spend more time with his family.
Yeah, he had some wonderful words. If you haven't seen it, check out his Instagram post. I don't think it's a knee-jerk reaction. I know you said he thought about it last night, but I think obviously he's been ruminating on this idea.
It's been 2 or 3 months, I think, where he was, really starting to think, okay, fine, this might actually be my last year. But what I meant, was that he didn't decide finally and didn't tell the team at least till yesterday.
Yeah. Well, let's hear from Sebastian Vettel talking to Lawrence in the media pen this afternoon.
Big day for you, I guess. First you join social media, so maybe that's the big news of the day.
Yeah.
And then obviously the sad news that you're leaving Formula One. Can you just talk me through how tough a decision that was? I've obviously heard your statement, but I've interviewed you for many years. It must have been a tough call to make.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's probably still very difficult to grasp the size of the decision, because this is the life I know. This is the life I knew since I was a child. And it gives you a lot of security just to know that, when the season starts, when the season ends, where the next race is. There's a certain routine in that, even though every race is different, it's a different challenge and so on and so on. But it's probably also true that I've done this so long, I have so much experience, it's not so difficult to just carry on. But my way of or interpretation of doing this is doing it at 100%. I know how much I can give and dedicate to this sport in order to also achieve the things I want to achieve. And it also takes a lot of time, and time that you have to probably at the beginning take away from nowhere else because there's nothing else. But since I grow and things grow around me, my children are growing, it's time away from them and time away maybe from other interests that I've grown. And at some point you reach a point where it starts to feel maybe not so clear about the next year. And the truth is, it's been a process over several years. Obviously the final decision I took yesterday, I told the team, but leading to that is not a race or 2 races or several weeks. It's more, it's much more than that. So it is a bit strange to look into the unknown, and I'm also a little bit afraid of what's coming. But I guess, I'm looking forward to it. I've obviously made my decision, and I'm excited to see what's behind the corner.
Super exciting. I've seen from the drivers who have commented already how much you're loved. I think Lewis was saying it was an honour to race against you and even a great honour to be your friend. What does it mean when you hear messages like that? Clearly, you've got the respect of everyone in this paddock.
Yeah, it's very nice. I mean, obviously, I think I share a lot of the respect. And after, you come in and you sort of try and fight for your place. But after you realize the race is a bit longer than just the laps that are on the board, and it's great to get to a point where you're hungry as ever in terms of competition and you want to beat the others. But the day you're beaten, to be also respectful and at peace in a way that accepting that they have done a better job on that day. And so it is great to get to know the others more and more. And obviously, I've basically, as long as I've been there, Lewis has been there. So, it's great that we had so much fun together, so many races, fighting each other on the track, but really getting closer and closer off the track. So, I think that's, one of the great things. There's a lot of things that will stay. I mean, a lot of things I will literally turn down. I will not be having the buzz of driving the cars anymore and racing. But the people stay, the friendships I made, the people I got to know, the memories I made. So there's a lot to take away. And generally I'm looking forward to, like I said, what's next.
It'll be sad to see Sebastian Vettel go, but looking ahead to their weekend here in Hungary, we've got a car that can go well on this track.
It's going to be a difficult one. I know he got the podium that wasn't a podium here last year, but that was an unusual race, and I think that with the team where they are now, even though the upgrades seem to have helped them with wider setup window, they're ultimately the 8th, 9th, 10th fastest car at the minute, and I think unless something dramatic happens, it's going to be difficult to see them scoring points.
Well, we've moved up to Red Bull because Max Verstappen, with that win in France, has extended his lead in the championship to 63 points, and of course helped by Charles Leclerc's DNF. Mm-hmm. This is a track where in the old days you'd think Red Bull would go well, and now of course with this new era of car it's more Ferrari heartland. So Max and Sergio, how do they rate their chances this weekend? I
think they've been saying for quite a few races, Christian as well, that this is a Ferrari track, and so I think it's fair if they are saying that they think it's going to be a more difficult weekend. Mattia Binotto, I think, is expecting a 1-2 for Ferrari, so I guess from this point of view, they know it'll be slightly more difficult. But actually, ultimately, 3-4 worst case scenario doesn't actually really matter, does it? They're commanding the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship. This is probably just a race they want to make sure they get a good number of points. Of course, they never count them out. But I think it is going to be a more challenging weekend for them in terms of pure car performance.
I'd like to see Sergio Perez feel a bit more comfortable. I think in France, Checo was ill at ease with the car on the Friday, and I don't think the French Grand Prix as a whole was a comfortable outing for him.
No, and talking to him actually earlier today, he was kind of saying that there's been some evolutions to the car, moving to the way that they set the car up, and it's not really where he's comfortable in. So I think that's an interesting thing. Started this year very comfortable with the car, could throw it around, and was obviously won that race, won Monaco of course. But it hasn't really panned out as that development curve's gone the way of really Max Verstappen, and we've seen Checo's had a couple of off races and he just looks a little bit more down in the dumps.
Yeah, well, hopefully he can turn it around and get some momentum heading into the summer break. Someone else who's hoping to turn it around is, of course, Charles Leclerc after that crash in France. Driver error? Bit of confusion as to what was going on over the team radio with the word throttle being mentioned, but we know it was just a mistake. Luckily, we race again this weekend, and drivers like that, don't they, Lawrence? Just kind of get the last one behind and forget about it and move on to the next straight away.
Yeah, definitely, and especially like a driver like Charles, who doesn't want to let the darkness of that weekend kind of settle in a little bit. He just wants to forget that as quickly as he can and move on. And already seeing him today and the mood that he's in, it does feel like it's like new chapter this weekend. He knows that they should get a 1-2, as I mentioned, Binotto talking about that. So he's got to knuckle down and go and get that result, because if you go into the summer break without a strong weekend, another difficult one, that's a long time to stew on it, isn't it?
Yeah, and Carlos Sainz, I think the pace he showed last weekend with that new PU, I think he thought he could be challenging for pole and ultimately a win if he'd had not to start from the back of the grid. So as Matteo Binotto says, as Lawrence has said, you know, they are expecting a 1-2. Will they get it? Here's Charles Leclerc talking to me earlier on in the media pen. Charles, I wondered, after Sunday, what do you do? Do you prefer to use your support network, friends and family, or do you need to be alone after things like that?
A bit of both. I think Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday I was mostly alone. Just the evening, my mum and my brothers came to see me Monday night, my friends Tuesday night, but normal, just like we usually do whenever I'm at home. So nothing really changed, and that's it. Some training and try to get ready as much as possible for this race.
And in terms of getting ready for this race, I think a lot of people think this is a Ferrari track, in inverted commas. Do you see it like that, or is there still a big job to do to make sure at the front this weekend?
I mean, I hope they're right, and on paper it is, but sometimes the things that we see on paper doesn't confirm themselves in reality. So let's wait and see, but normally it should be a track where we will be strong, yes.
And any kind of strategic play on which side of the grid you want to be this weekend?
Oh, first, from FP1 to the end of the race.
Even with the dirty and clean side being quite a big thing here.
You know more than me about this. I don't know. I haven't brought myself that much forward into the weekend, but let's see after tomorrow.
And so we move to Mercedes. And it's a bit of an unknown, isn't it, where they're at with their car. A few little upgrades this weekend. Still learning about the car, and it's so difficult when you've got tracks that are so difficult to get a real read. What's your take?
Well, if you ask Lewis, he'll say that actually in the last race they got worse in terms of pure performance, fell a little bit away from the top two. If you look on the paper, he's getting better, isn't he? 3 third places and a second place last time out. I think the reality is it's probably somewhere in the middle. They are making slow progress with the car, but it's not quick enough really, or they're not making big enough steps to go and challenge, you know, Red Bull and Ferrari. But what they are doing is consistently taking the points. You know, they're always there, aren't they?
Yeah.
When Ferrari and Red Bull are having problems, they are racking up the points. So even if it's going to be a difficult year, I guess that's the best position to be in.
Which is super impressive, because they're faced with a different challenge this year. They're not the fastest car, they're not the championship contenders, and yet they are, as you say, just brilliantly kind of trained in how they go about their things. They're not changing anything, they're still doing it so that they will hopefully win soon. One day.
Exactly, and I guess if you consider where they started from to where they've got to now, they've done what Mercedes have done every year that they've been dominant, which is make those big steps. It's just that they were coming from quite a far back position, so even though they've hauled themselves into contention, it's not quite enough to kind of catch them up. And now we're kind of into that realm of little details and making the small differences. You can't make those big steps into the season. You've got the budget caps, they can't just keep spending. So I think, you know, bang for the buck, I think they've done a good job considering where they started. And this weekend, Lewis tends to go well here, doesn't he? He's got a very good record around here, and it'd be difficult to say one of them won't get onto the podium, because I think that would be stupid for us to say based on what's going on. But like, it depends. If the Ferraris and the Red Bulls are reliable, it's going to be difficult.
And a sprinkling of rain on Saturday during quali, who knows? That could really throw a cat amongst the pigeons. Well, I sat in on the media conference with George Russell earlier, and this is what he was saying. George, I just wonder how close you are to finding the limit with this car, or have you found it? And then alongside that, how much more enjoyable the car is to drive compared to the beginning of the season?
I mean, we're definitely on the limit. We've been trying to push the car to its limits all season. For sure, we've made progress with its drivability, so I think we both have more confidence to push it to the limits, as we probably saw in Austria, let's say. But we're exploring so much. We know that the main performance there is aerodynamically, and we're trying so many different things week in, week out, which also puts us on the back foot to a degree, because it's never a smooth race weekend because we're just still trying to find that silver bullet. We are getting answers to some of the questions that are being raised with him, but it's a bit of a long process, and as you've seen, we've definitely made progress, we've definitely reduced that gap, but we've still got a lot of work to do.
Oh, I love a battle for P4, Lawrence. Alpine and McLaren battling it out. Went into the French Grand Prix level on points, but actually McLaren slightly ahead because of Lando's podium at Imola. But now, Alpine are leading. Great result from them in France. Do you see that continuing? Are they going to beat McLaren in the development race?
I mean, at the moment, they are thrashing McLaren, aren't they, in development race? And what's been really impressive with Alpine is they've brought lots of developments consistently through the year, and they're all working. And if, Fernando had better luck this year, and Esteban to an extent as well, they'd probably be considerably clear of McLaren. And I think if you talk to McLaren and to Lando and Daniel, I think they can see that actually they've outdriven that car and they've got better results out of it. And it's slightly fortuitous that they'd been ahead or level on points coming into France than where they are now. But Esteban's driving very consistently this year. He obviously got his first win here at this track last year, so I think he come in here with a lot of confidence. He's almost a different driver, I think, this year. He looks so much more at one with his ability to get the most out of this car. And Fernando, well, look, we've seen plenty of times this year Fernando can turn it on when he fancies, so could well do it here.
And it's his birthday tomorrow on Friday, so he will be celebrating his birthday, jumping into the car and hoping for a good result here in Hungary to take them into the break. And then having leapfrogged McLaren also with upgrades last weekend, and I think there's still a little bit of data to go over on that. Of course, Lando had the shorter amount of time in the car. He had the old spec, in FP1 in France, so he had a little less learning than Daniel, but I think, this weekend, a little bit more learning, and then they can take that into the second half.
Yeah, I think that's what we're seeing with most of the teams on the grid, really. You can't just bring an up-to-go package and expect it to be instantly good that weekend or in those kind of sessions. You need a couple of weekends to understand it, and McLaren especially are finding that with the upgrade that they brought, I think there's immense potential. That's definitely what the numbers are saying, immense potential in it. They just haven't managed to get the best out of it, and they've started the season on the back foot with those brake-up problems, and they've basically been playing catch-up ever since. And so when you're doing that, and you're not able to always be looking ahead and always trying to make the most of the performance, I think it is very difficult for them to do that. It's good that they're kind of continuing to push. It's good that Lando's been pretty consistent and has got things out of the car. Daniel's had his moments this year, and I think he just needs that kind of series of weekends, good results to boost his own confidence, because he hasn't lost that talent overnight. So interesting weekend for them here. Asking them both, they're not quite sure how things are going to go for them. But if they can learn more about the update smooth day tomorrow and get a good qualifying, like you were saying about the weather, could be a very good weekend.
Yeah, and James Key, the technical director at McLaren, was telling me in France that there are going to be a couple of little extra tweaks to Daniel's car just to help him get comfortable, because I think that's perhaps been missing a little bit. But you mentioned those brake ducts. My gosh, that feels like ages ago, doesn't it, at the start of the season? Well, let's hear from Daniel Ricciardo ahead of this weekend's Hungarian Grand Prix.
So Daniel, how are you feeling ahead of this weekend? I know you had the upgrade at the last race and you said you want a little bit more time to understand it. You've had a couple of days. Is that enough to kind of make some progress?
It was actually. It was enough to understand that there were probably a few more positives from the weekend than maybe I felt after the race. And I think as well, like when you're in a battle in the race, and obviously I was trying to hold Esteban off as long as I could, and eventually he beat me. So I was also just like, you never want to get beat when you're fighting someone. So there was probably a little bit of that as well that maybe clouded some of the good things, I think, throughout the weekend or that happened. So yeah, I think there was a little bit more to smile about, not celebrate, but smile about, and looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be, I couldn't remember the last time we had like a full dry weekend in Budapest, so I think I'm saying that because Saturday looks very wet, so it looks like a typical Budapest pre-summer break.
I mean, that sounds quite good. You've had a good race.
It does.
Races here in the past. You've obviously won here as well, so you've got good memories from the place. And I know that might not be this year, but you must be still optimistic for a strong weekend.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of optimism, Pez, I'm just happy, excited to go racing, and then we'll see where it puts us. I'm not getting too caught up in where I think we'll be, or it's so hard to tell this year, and that's wherever we are when the checkered flag drops Sunday, then that's what we will finish. That sounds
Wow.
like very
Insightful.
yeah, insightful. But my point is, I don't want to like start predicting stuff. It's a bit of wasted energy at this point. So it's a track I love, and yeah, if Saturday's wet, then I think it's going to be fun. It could mix up qualifying, and this is a very quali kind of biased track in terms of quite a tricky one to overtake. So yeah, could set your weekend up well.
I think we're mentioning upgrades rather a lot, and I quite like it because we're going to mention them some more. Last weekend, AlphaTauri had what Pierre had hoped for would be sort of a reset with a big, brand new, upgraded package. But of course, with Yuki DNFing, didn't get much data, although had a good quali outing. And then Pierre also finishing further down. So I think they're going to be learning a lot this weekend as well. Can they fight back and get themselves in a good position going into the summer break?
I don't see why not. I think there was some real encouragement from the way that Yuki seemed to be able to extract quite a lot out of the new package, obviously, up until the point in which his race was no longer relevant. But I think there was a bit of a surprise that Pierre didn't have that same kind of feel or wasn't able to extract that same thing. So I think a lot of the work that they put in over the last couple of days has been trying to understand that. And Pierre was saying that they have made some breakthroughs, or at least some things that they want to try this weekend. I think there was quite a lot of expectation on this upgrade. So I think they'll hope that France was an outlier, very different, like you've said already, very different track here.
And also good because it was downforce they were adding, wasn't it, in France last weekend? And this is a high downforce circuit.
It's Monaco spec downforce, isn't it? So like they're all heaping it on. So cars that are strong on downforce, which is why we're saying Ferrari is so good, will be so good around here. It should play to AlphaTauri's strength if the update.
I bless you again.
If the update works as they hope.
Now let's keep it on upgrades because we've been talking for ages now about the Haas upgrade, which has been promised for quite a while, and now here we are finally at Hungary. I started to panic in France because Kevin said he couldn't promise me that the upgrade would be here in Hungary.
Okay.
So here we are. Well, I was worrying
nice.
for them because then everyone asks questions why and why has there been a delay and yada yada yada. Anyway, we have got an upgrade, one upgrade for Kevin Magnussen. He's ahead in points terms, so he's taking the upgrade, Mick not. And I think the reason there's only one is because the spare parts issue has been a bit sketchy, hasn't it? They've had two big offs with Mick. Obviously, we had the Saudi one and then one in Monaco. So, I mean, we're all going to be watching with eagle eyes to see how they go this weekend with this upgrade.
I think the hope is that it's going to be an even better weekend than they would have happened with the old car. That said, talking to Mick, he wasn't too downbeat about having the old spec car because look, they've had that car all year, unchanged, and it's been competitive throughout really, and they just haven't really maximised it. So I don't think he's too disappointed to miss out. He said that he expects to get it in Belgium next race out. Let's not forget that you'll think, well, obviously they'll get it for Spa, but the team shut down fully for 2 weeks and literally no work is happening. So it's still a challenge for them to do that. They've been on the back foot all season really on the spare part kind of thing, and then production issues towards the end meant that they had to delay it first to here, and that's hurt them. But the key will be not to fall into the Haas trap that they've had in previous years, which is bringing
Haas trap
upgrades.
sounds painful, actually.
Well, it was
when you
pretty
say it like
painful
that.
for them because they were bringing upgrades, and it took them months to realise it was actually worse than what the package that they had beforehand. Then they went back, and that was a really dreadful season. So I think it's critical that when they bring this package to the track, it correlates with what the data is saying back at base, because if it doesn't, we could be in for a bit of a world of pain. That said, they know that they've got a base car that is fundamentally very good.
And that's why it's good that Kevin, he's been there, done it with Haas and can use all that experience this weekend with the new spec. So let's hear from Kevin ahead of using the new upgrade.
So Kevin, one race to go until the summer break. I know everyone's pretty excited, I think, to get a bit of a break. But first, we've got the Grand Prix, obviously, and you've got the upgrade package this weekend. The car's been pretty strong as it is on the baseline, so you must be super excited about an improved one.
Yeah, it's always super exciting to get new parts in the car, it's you hope that it's going to be massively better, but we know kind of what we can expect at best, and then there's always a bit of work to be done to really extract the performance out of these new upgrades. It's very rare that you put it on and it just works. There's always some work to do. So let's see how it goes this weekend. As I said, it's exciting, and we're happy that we're bringing an upgrade. We've had good performance with the old spec car, and we kind of extracted a lot of performance since the beginning of the year. So, we know that there is a lot to find when you work with these things, and so it's also a little anxious, I guess, but mostly exciting.
How different have you found the team in this stint after a little bit of a break? You've obviously got good experience of what they're like, but they seem to be operating very well. The cars performed throughout the year. There's been no real problems. It means like you're making step-by-step improvements.
Yeah, I think it's been a good year in terms of at least the performance and the potential in the car and the team. We haven't always been lucky or on the right strategy, or it seems like when we've taken some risk, it's gone against us every time, and it's kind of been a little bit of a trend this year, and so you then start to become a little bit more conservative or careful, I guess, and the last few races have been much better. We've had a bit more fortune and had scored some points, and the good thing is that even without upgrades, we've been hanging on to the guys that we were fighting at the beginning of the year. It's not like they've pulled away from us massively. At some races they seem to be better than us, but generally we're more or less in the same place as we were. So yeah, it's been a good year in that regard, and a massive step that the team has taken from last year. With these new regulations, it's all become a bit more close, I think, and it's very limited what you can do with the cars design-wise. So everyone's going to be more closer together, and that's a very good thing.
Another team splitting their upgrade duties is Alfa Romeo. Valtteri Bottas getting it, Zhou Guanyu not getting it. He told me he's excited because he's hoping to get it in Spa. Alfa Romeo have been an interesting one. I think showed so much promise at the beginning of the year, and then it slightly went awry. Could this upgrade be what they've been lacking?
I think Valtteri's pretty excited about the fact that they've got an upgrade, because he's had a bit of a run of races where things haven't quite gone their way. Well, to be honest, the team have had a run of races where things haven't gone their way. I think they should take confidence in the fact that when they bought that package initially, they were able to see that the performance correlated, so I think that's good. I think the concern, of course, is that they've had reliability issues throughout the season, a varying number of things. Last time out, they're still suffering the start issue, aren't they?
With the clutch, yeah.
Which is frustrating for them. So it'll be interesting to see what Valtteri's feedback is on that. It makes sense to give it to him. He's the experienced driver in that team. He'll be able to hopefully help them drive forward quicker with that package. But let's not forget, and similar to Haas, this car at times on certain circuits has been very quick. So, and we've seen Joe deliver some really strong performances over the course of this year. So look, I think it could be a good weekend for them, but they definitely haven't scored the points that they would have hoped to this year.
It's just that fragility, isn't it? They just need to get a little bit of a handle on that. And then we come to Williams. They introduced their package a couple of races ago. Mm-hmm. Alex Albon got it first, then Nicholas Latifi got it in France, and I think what I'd say is the car is now trickier to drive.
Yeah.
It's got certain characteristics that perhaps don't suit Alex and Nicky's driving, and I think that's what they're now having to slightly adapt, which I imagine is a pretty tricky challenge midway through a season.
Yeah, I think when you've obviously got to a point with a car where you feel very comfortable and it's responding in the way that you're used to, and then to go to a car that is potentially offers more performance but is trickier to understand, you have to get the setup right, you have to nail all of that. It is difficult, but I think Alex took a lot of optimism from, I think P13 is roughly where they've been of late, and that's not that far off the points, is it? So if they can start to understand this package a lot quicker, they've now got two cars to learn from as well, with Nicky getting it obviously, like you said, in France and bringing it here, and they had, I know it was unusual circumstances last year, but they had a good race here in Hungary, scored points with both cars.
Yeah, both cars,
so
absolutely.
I think that this is another race where, with the dodgy weather expected on Saturday, if they can qualify well, they could have a good weekend. But I do feel for both of them, particularly Nicky, who's had a difficult season, and then he's given a car that is tricky to understand and tricky to get the most out of. That must be difficult. So, fingers crossed they can get on top of things pretty quickly.
Yeah, all about optimisation. Well, let's hear from Alex Albon, who was talking to Lawrence earlier this afternoon.
So, Alex, we've almost made it to the halfway point of the season. Summer break's almost upon us. We've got one more race to go. How are you feeling about this layout, this track?
Yeah, you make it sound like it's like, I've got to get it over the line. And it is a kind of. It's an interesting circuit. Historically, it's actually a good one for the guys. We tend to go pretty well around here. We'll wait and see. Actually, Paul Ricard for me was a good weekend. We actually felt really good. It was the happiest I felt in the car all year. So hopefully we can bring that forward to this weekend. Weather's going to be interesting. I think it'll be a good talking point. And yeah, let's see if we can maximise qualifying, because really here, qualifying is the main thing.
I feel like there's been a lot of races this year where you've got close to, if not the maximum out of it, and I know you haven't got the final results out of it, but that must give you a lot of confidence going forward.
It does. I think apart from when we had to retire, I think our worst results have been 13th, which means we've been always right on the fringes of points and just, either just in or just not quite. And it shows that firstly we're doing a good job. We are reliable. We're missing a little bit just to get into them points. And as you can see, the midfield's incredibly close. So on my side, it's like, we're chipping away at it. We are going to get there. I'm sure of that. Obviously, let's hope it's this weekend.
It's that time of the show, Lawrence. And I'm sorry if I've been a bit distracted, but I can't make my mind up on who I think is going to be on the podium. Can you?
Which means you want me to go first.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going for a Charles Leclerc win, a Carlos Sainz second, and a Max Verstappen third.
Okay.
I know that's not very exciting, but I honestly think that's what's going to play out.
Okay, I will then go for Charles to win.
Mm-hmm.
I went for that last weekend, that did not work. I will go for Max P2 and Carlos P3, and Mercedes just or thereabouts trying to get to the podium.
I think they'll be hovering in and amongst it, and if something happens to one of the top two, then I think there's a chance, but this is a circuit where neither of them can afford mistakes, the top two teams.
I'd also like to see the AlphaTauris, Alfa Romeo, Haas, perhaps nearer the points or just inside the points as well, just to take them into the summer break, just as like a little on your holidays, off you go. Well, thank you very much for your prediction.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for joining us on this weekend warm-up. We'll be here all weekend in Budapest, bringing you all the action from the Hungaroring. But from Lawrence and from me, it's goodbye.